Welcome to our podcast, Inspiring Living, with me, Mark Candelaria. I am an architect, blogger, traveler, chef, father, and husband. I am the founder and now partner of a fabulous 25-person architecture firm specializing in high-end residential architecture, designing amazing homes across the country. We have hosted tours to Italy, Spain, and now Napa over the last 20 years, and in the course of all this, I have met a lot of interesting people who truly inspire me. Our podcast is about all the opportunities that are right there in front of us to inspiring living. Yes, we will talk about architecture and design, but every week we will venture into all sorts of topics that will inspire you, teach you, and motivate you to inspire living every day. My guests will include a wide gamut of amazing people, from those in the design industry to clients to real estate professionals, chefs, artists, sports figures, and philanthropists, and people who just flat out get it. Sit back and enjoy, and let's have some fun exploring all the opportunities that are there just waiting for us. Please subscribe and get ready to be inspired every week. Okay, as my dad says, here we go. Wow, what a busy month. I don't know about you guys, but it's crazy out there. But anyway, a couple of quick things. We want to thank Phoenix Home and Garden Magazine for our feature, Sleeping Beauty, in this month's issue, Art and Artists. Fantastic project. We actually did this nearly 20 years ago, and it's finally getting some recognition. I want to say great job to my partner, Vivian Ayala, who was a project manager at the time, and GM Hunt, who did a fantastic job constructing the home, and Bergup Design for their work on the gardens and landscape. Finally, thanks to photographer Julianne McKay at Pearl Blossom Photography for her stunning pictures of this project. I encourage you to pick up a copy today. Because Inspiring Living is all about the people and the organizations that inspire us, we are excited to have Monogram Appliances as one of our sponsors. Anytime we do a new kitchen or a kitchen remodel, Monogram Appliances are what we recommend to our client. Their appliances are the definition of luxury, meticulously detailed using the finest materials and an ownership experience that is second to none. This is how Monogram is always thinking ahead and inspiring and elevating the kitchen experience. Because at Monogram, they don't just elevate one thing, they elevate everything. All right, good morning. I have a really fun podcast I'm really looking forward to today. I have Scottsdale contemporary artist Niki Woehler. I'm saying that right? Specializes in both organic, textural canvas works, as well as abstract high-gloss resin art panels and customized waterproof art installations, emphasizing rich color that often resembles stone scattered with minerals. Okay, does that sound cool or what, right? And this is a podcast, so you guys can't see any of this stuff, but we're going to post some cool videos, some cool photos. Her work is amazing, okay? Her large-scale art pieces have caught eyes worldwide, and it's currently represented by Forré Co Fine Art. Did I say that right?
Correct.
Galleries in both Aspen and Vail, Colorado, the Slate Gray Gallery in Telluride, Colorado, and Kerrville, Texas. You have to tell me where Kerrville, Texas is. Kerrville. Yep. And the Broadmoor Galleries, which I know very well, at the iconic Broadmoor Hotel in Colorado Springs, the House of Anderson in Scottsdale, Arizona. You've got your stuff all over the place, girl.
Correct. And the Foundry downtown Phoenix as well.
There you go. Yeah, that was the next thing right here. One of Niki's works, Silent Partners, was handpicked from more than 1,100 submissions to be part of a group show titled Face Off at the Herberger Theater Gallery to run October 2016 through 17. So that's over with. But we're going to talk about all the things you got going on. And we're sitting in her studio gallery here, kind of workshop off of Goldwater, just north of Indian School, right behind Donna Vallone's shop. So I'm getting free Wi-Fi. Thanks, Donna Vallone. This is awesome. This is a cool space. So good morning and welcome. Thanks for letting us interrupt you.
Good morning. Thank you so much. This is a blast.
Isn't this cool?
This is wonderful.
This is your first podcast.
This is.
So we're going to have a lot of fun here. So, all right, stay tuned. We're going to get settled in and we'll get started here. Here we are in the studio. This is a real studio, too. I mean, there's paint all over the place. There's drawings and paintings and paint cans, and this is the real deal, girl.
It really is.
I love it.
I am so happy here. This is my happy place.
Yeah, so the last time I met with you in your studio, it was your dining room.
It was.
Yeah?
For 6 years, it was my dining room.
Right. And I was trying to help you design a studio for your backyard, and I think we could have built the Taj Mahal for what I designed for you, what the bids came back at, right?
It was a little crazy.
Oh, my God. It was insane.
It was a little nuts.
Yeah, that was a little extreme.
But you know what? One day we will build that Taj Mahal.
We will.
Yes,
I mean,
we will.
I've been watching you, and I know it's going to happen. I'm totally convinced, and that's hence why I'm staying so close to you, because I know there is a great commission for me down the road.
Huge.
Huge,
Wonderful.
huge, right?
Amazing.
So here we are in, I guess we call this Old Town Scottsdale, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And so you've kind of taken over this vacated space, and you've kind of turned it into this magnificent studio.
It's incredible. I've gone from 11 foot by 12 foot to 2,800 square feet. And I get to throw paint. I mean, as you can see, it's super raw, so it doesn't matter what I do here.
Yeah.
It's just, it is so freeing. I've gone from one painting table to 4, and I constantly have multiple pieces working at once. I don't overwork paintings anymore. I get to jump from one to the next. It's honestly, this has been the most incredible blessing ever.
Well, I can see it on your face, and just your energy is like so different than when I met with you in the dining room. I mean, in the dining room, you were just up to your eyeballs.
I know.
I mean, you couldn't use your house. Your house had been taken over by your work.
Oh, it had. And especially when I would be doing a big piece for a client, I would have to move my area rug, move my sofa, push everything over closer towards the fireplace, and then, ask my children to, not bump into it. I mean, it was crazy.
So what is it like to come here where you've got all this space, no restrictions? I mean, do you have to mentally prepare yourself differently?
No, it's actually the it's
better.
Opposite.
Yeah.
I no longer.
There's less distraction.
I don't even have to think when I come in here now. I get to just do.
Just do it.
I walk in that door, I turn on the lights, I put my music on, and instantly everything just washes over and I get to start.
That's awesome.
It's incredible. I don't have to move anything. I don't have to, look at my couch and go, okay, Nikki, don't get paint on it today.
Okay, so I understand that as an artist. I mean, I do my own fair share of painting and obviously a lot of architecture. And I know that when you have to set up and prepare and do all that, when you can't just instantaneously start, it is a distraction, and it's a real easy excuse to put something off.
It is.
Right?
Yeah, or to not take a chance at something.
Right. Because once I start, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Once I'm there doing it, I can go forever.
Right. Well, or for me, it was because I was always worried. I have I have this one painting I was working on, and it was a pretty big one, and somehow I forgot that I was actually in my own home.
Right.
I was so into the painting, and I had a bucket of white paint, and I threw it at the painting. And I'm working on the painting, and I'm dabbing and retracting and taking things off. And at some point, I look up, and I realize I shot a bucket of white paint across my entertainment set, across my television, across my subwoofer, across the whole thing. And I had to stop and think to myself, well, if you can save one thing, what are you going to save?
Right.
Are you going to save the art, or are you going to save, the entertainment center? I chose the art. I just thought, well, you know what? This stuff's getting a little old anyways. Technology's so much better. I'll buy a new one.
That's so funny. It's
Yeah.
so iconic, actually. It's interesting.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for me, not having a space where I could just paint with abandon,
Right.
it was limiting.
Yeah.
And here it doesn't matter what I do.
There's a lot of room, too. It's
Yeah,
nice.
there
really
is.
nice.
And it's funny. I mean, when I first started moving in, I thought, how am I ever going to fill this space? Oh, my goodness. And look around. I mean, it's getting full.
It's
And
getting there.
now
You've
I'm
done it.
thinking, oh, my gosh, now I might need a bigger space.
Yeah, that's very, very cool.
Isn't
So
that great?
how did we meet? I'm trying to remember how we met. Is
We
it through
met
our kids?
through our children.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, both of our middle kids have been friends since 3rd grade.
3rd grade.
And so I always followed you, and I followed your work, and I knew, your name. And then one day, my son said, Bella Candelaria. And I went, whoa, wait a minute. Candelaria is in Mark Candelaria? And he said, yeah, that's her dad. And I was like, oh, my goodness, seriously? All these years.
Yeah. It's
And
funny.
so I think I reached out to you to say, hey, I'm
I think
Connor's
that's right.
mom.
I remember that.
Yep.
That's it. That's
And
exactly
that's how
it
we
was.
met.
And that's been quite a few years now.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah,
Many.
I was looking back at when we were doing your studio. That was already 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was August of 17.
Wow.
It seemed like it was
last year.
It seems like it was last year, but it
Yeah.
was 2 years ago.
Gosh, where does time go?
I know, it's crazy,
Wow.
right? So I love art. I find it so fascinating to understand the life of an artist. And let's add to that a single mom, right?
Oh,
You've been a
yes.
single mom for how long now?
Long time.
Long time.
Long
And
time.
I know as a single dad how hard it is, and I know as a single mom it's got to even be tougher. Plus, you're an artist, And so what's that like?
It is.
How old are your kids now?
So my kids now are 16, 17, and 19.
Okay, so you have three of them.
So there's three of them, and they're obviously a lot more self-sufficient now. What is that like as a single mom? It's terrifying and exhilarating all at the same time.
Especially teenagers.
Plus they're teenagers. Well, I'm lucky though. Mine are actually really good.
Yeah, that is lucky.
I mean, mine are, like, knock on wood,
Yeah.
really, really good.
Yep.
But it's being an artist, you don't have a safety net.
No.
There's no safety
That's
net.
what I'm saying. I know what it's like as an architect to not have a safety net. And an architect is kind of more of a conventional career.
Yeah.
Being an artist is totally subjective.
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
You're throwing paint and you're hoping someone's going to love it.
Exactly. And each painting is kind of like a baby.
Yeah.
Right? It's one of my children. So, if somebody says it's ugly, you're like, aw.
No, I want to.
Wow. But, it's it might be one of the gutsiest things I've ever done in my whole life. But at the same time, I've never shied away from a challenge.
Right. So how did you get into art? I mean, you're from Toronto, Canada, which I read, and I was like, well, okay, how in the heck did you get from Toronto, Canada to Scottsdale, Arizona?
Well, my husband, he was my husband. He, when we had been married for a couple of years, he wanted to come here, and so we did.
But you're Canadian.
I am. I'm Canadian. I'm a permanent resident of the U.S.
Okay.
And so I've been in Phoenix, Scottsdale now since 95.
95, okay.
95, long time.
So what was it like growing up in Toronto?
Amazing.
Yeah?
Oh,
I've been there
so
once. It looked like a cool city. Yeah.
I miss being in a city where, there's just a centralized life. There's millions of people walking around downtown.
Right.
There's,
it's getting better here, but we still got a ways to go. It's improved dramatically since 94.
Oh, it certainly has. I remember when I first got here, you'd drive downtown and there was tumbleweeds.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. I mean, after 5 p.m. and the offices shut down.
There was nothing.
Nothing. So it's gotten significantly better. But, it's still missing, some of the elements, but it'll get there eventually.
Yeah, eventually. So when you were in Toronto as a young kid, were you an artist then?
No. So that's the crazy thing. I actually disliked art class. I couldn't draw. I couldn't do the things that they asked, but I think it's because they asked me to paint a fruit bowl.
Right.
They asked me
They're putting the art in a box.
Yes. And
it wasn't your box.
It's not my box.
Right.
I need to be able to color way outside the lines.
You don't have lines.
I don't have lines.
Yeah, there's no lines around here.
Nope. So I think because I couldn't fit in their mold and what they wanted, I thought I hated art. I went into marketing, believe it or not.
So I see you studied marketing and what was the other, advertising?
Yeah, marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
I actually started at 14. My mom was the VP of a major ad agency in Toronto.
Oh, interesting. That's how that happened.
Mm-hmm. And one of her clients was Hostess Potato Chips. And so they used to market to kids in my age bracket, my demographic. And so my mom, they would put these little toys inside the personal size bags, kind of like McDonald's toys.
Yep.
And so they would use me to do their grandma research. So they would give me some of the different, things that they were considering doing, and I'd take them to school, distribute them, gather up the information, bring back and let my mom know what was going on. Then by the time I was 16, I was a paid copywriter. I was writing TV and radio spots. And then it was just a natural flow for me. Yeah. So I've always been a creative.
Yeah, I was going to say, the creative aspect was always there.
Yeah, so I've always been a creative. I never liked math class. I always hated science class. But I loved writing, and I loved reading, and I loved, those kinds of things.
Right.
And so I went to college for marketing. And then...
And where's Sheridan College? That's where
it's
you
just
went.
outside of Toronto.
Okay.
So that's where I went. And then I met the husband on spring break in Daytona Beach.
Oh, okay. There you go.
And we ended up dating for another year and then said, what the heck, and got married.
And got married there in Toronto?
No, we actually got married in Pittsburgh.
Oh, in Pittsburgh.
Where he was from.
Oh, he was from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
So he was an American.
He's an American.
Okay, so you got married, and you met at Daytona Beach.
Met at Daytona Beach. We did the whole dating back
now,
and
was
forth
it
for a year.
Christmas break or spring break?
Spring break.
Oh, spring break.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
it was debauchery.
That makes more sense. Yeah.
Right Said Fred was playing it, so now I'm dating myself.
Okay, so then you get married in Pittsburgh.
We got married in Pittsburgh.
And at that time, were you still in the marketing broadcasting field?
I was, yep.
Yep.
So I had my first advertising job. I came right out of school and then went to live in Pittsburgh with him.
Okay.
So I had my first job at an agency. My first day of work, they actually flew me into Dallas, and I met with my first client, which was IBM.
Wow.
It was crazy.
How old were you then?
21.
Wow. Yeah, cool.
I know. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It feels like a whole lifetime ago, maybe 3 lifetimes ago.
That's weird, isn't it?
I know.
Yep.
So then we ended up moving here 2 years later.
Now, how did that happen? Why Phoenix?
Well, at the time, he was a nurse, and he wanted to do traveling nurses. So we kind of traveled all around the country for 2 years. But I was bored out of my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, we could only live in a place for 2 to 3 months, so you can't go get a job.
Right, yeah.
So here I am at 22 years old, sitting around a pool talking. My best friends were like 85 years old because we were living in places like Florida. And so I'm sitting outside having, cocktails with Wanda at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But it just wasn't stimulating me. So I looked at him one day and I said, okay, that's it. Like, I'm done. You've got to do this for 2 years.
Yep.
We need to go somewhere where I can start a career. And so this is where we ended up. We had done a session here. We had done a 3-month stint here, and he really loved it. And I wanted to go to a bigger city.
Yeah.
He did not. So this was a compromise.
Good compromise.
Yep.
So how'd you like Arizona?
At the time or now?
At the time.
At the time when I first moved here, I thought it was
that's quite a difference from Toronto and Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I would walk around mesmerized by the austere beauty of it all.
Yeah.
It's just so different. And then after a while, I got really homesick. I missed the green, and I missed the weather, and I missed the trees and the foliage and so for a while I was in kind of a not the best space as far as where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but I think you
adapt.
build a life somewhere, and then but I'm happy here now.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I love to travel. Travel is my jam. But
yeah, we got to get you on some of these tours.
I know for sure.
So, so when you came here, then did you get back into advertising and marketing?
Yes, I did. So I was in marketing here. I went client side for a while. Coulter Cadillac, I did their marketing.
Okay.
And then I went into media sales.
Yeah.
So I worked at KSLX and KMLE for between the two of them over 10 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And then we moved back to Toronto for a quick 10 months. I was the business development director for 130 radio stations in Toronto across the country. And then we moved back down here because there was this whole crazy chain of events, and we just said, oh, forget it, and we came back. And at that time, I decided that I wanted to go into business for myself. So I started my own ad agency.
Okay.
And I had that for almost 12 years, and I had amazing clients: Vitamin Water, Smart Water, Harlem Globetrotters. The whole
big stuff.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was an incredible ride. And then one day I just didn't love what I was doing as much. And so to back up for a second, I'm trying to remember how old I was. I didn't have kids yet. One of my jobs was I was the marketing director for Buzz Fun Bar. I don't know if you remember that.
Never heard of that.
It was a huge club up at Scottsdale Road and Shea. And we lost one of our employees who was, a good friend. He fell asleep at the wheel and he died. And so I went to his funeral, and it was a beautiful, beautiful day. And I didn't have kids, so I had a cute little roadster, and I had the roof down on the car. And as I was driving, I was sad, thinking that, Michael should have been here. And just, he fell asleep, and how dumb.
Right.
And then this voice in my head, I was driving past Michael's. This voice in my head said, hey, Nick, you should stop and get some paint and some canvases and some brushes. And
But you've never done that before?
No, never.
Ever.
I'd hated art before
Yeah.
that. I thought it was just, why would anybody do that? But the voice was so loud and so clear. And I was driving right past Michael's, so I actually, turned in, and I walked in, and I grabbed a bunch of canvases, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just grabbed colors and canvases and a bunch of brushes. And I remember I had the roof down. I had the little BMW Z Roadster, so this tiny little thing, and I had canvases the
Like
size
that?
of those.
Sticking out of the back.
Sticking out of the back. And I drove home, and I painted my first painting. And I
Wow.
was lucky enough to live next to an art professor from ASU.
Interesting.
So I knocked on her door, and I asked her to come over and take a look at what I had painted for some critique. And she walked in, and she looked at it, and she said, that's your first painting? And I said, yeah, I've never done. And she turned around, and she started to walk away. And I said, wait, it's that bad? You've got nothing to say?
No, she decided to go into advertising after that and marketing.
No. Then she looked at me and she said, I don't want to guide you in any way. You have a natural talent. You just keep painting and don't stop.
Amazing.
And she turned around and walked out the door. And so...
This all sounds like very divine intervention.
It really does, doesn't it?
Totally.
Yeah. And then so I painted a couple more paintings. And then I got pregnant with my first child. And life got crazy.
So a lot of divine intervention.
A lot of divine intervention, yeah. And so then I had 2 more kids, rapid fire. I mean,
Wow.
at one point I had 3 kids, 3 and under, and so there was no time for painting.
Right.
And so that all just kind of got pushed to the side, and I focused on kids and life and marriage and.
Yep. Were you still working?
Oh yeah, I was still working. I was in radio at the time.
Wow.
I was doing radio sales.
So
at
you're
the time.
busy.
Oh, it was crazy, and so. But then fast forward those few years later, and I was doing my own agency, and I'd already had it for 12 years. And I don't know, I kind of lost some of the sparkle for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would stay home days and play hooky and paint. But I didn't tell anybody that I painted. The only way you knew if I painted was if you had been in my home, because my walls were covered in my own art. But it was something that I saved just for me.
Yeah.
And one day I got busted by a client. And so she called, and I was covered in paint, and I'm fumbling, trying to get to my phone and not ruin my phone. And she says, what are you doing? And I said, I'm painting. And she said, your walls, honey, there's people for that. And I said, no, not my walls, I'm painting. And she said, let me see photos. And I said, no. And she said, why? And I said, because I don't show my art. And she said, let me see photos. And I said, no. And she said, let me see photos or you're fired. So I sent her photos, and next thing I know, she sent me back a photo, and it was of an empty wall with dimensions and said, you're amazing, paint something.
Cool.
And so I did, and she loved it, and she commissioned 2 more pieces after that, and she looked at me and she said, you're great at marketing, but this is what you should be doing. You're crazy if you don't. So I got a little bit
Now, what year was that, roughly?
Almost 7 years ago now.
Okay. So not that long ago.
Not that long ago. So I got a little bit of courage, and I popped a painting up on Facebook just to see what happened. But at least I figured they're my friends. They're going to be kind, if nothing else. Yeah. And the painting sold within an hour. And then I thought, well, that's interesting. Let's try this again. So I popped another one up, and it sold within an hour. And I thought,
here we go.
Really? So I looked up, and I talked to the universe, and I said, all right, I'm listening. I'm paying attention.
Right.
So how about we do this? If this happens one more time, I'll go be an artist.
3rd time's the charm.
3rd time's the charm, and it happened. It happened again. And so I actually closed down my agency within 30 days, and I have been painting full-time ever since.
That is amazing.
Isn't that incredible?
That is so freaking cool.
I know. I love it. It's quite a story.
Well, that's awesome. And now, like I said in the intro, you've got artwork all over the place.
I do.
Vail, Aspen,
it's all
Telluride.
Over. You know what's so cool? Somebody sent me an Instagram message, and she was Instagramming me from her home in Paris. Apparently, she bought one of my pieces in the Aspen Gallery and was interested in buying another piece for her other home in Munich.
There you go.
I mean, so I've got art around the world.
Yeah,
I mean,
awesome.
it's such an incredible feeling.
Well, it's great with social media what you can do. I mean, that's perfect example of why I love it, because it's such a visual medium, and for an artist, architect, whatever, to be able to put something out there where you're not just showing it to people next door. Anyone in the world could see it.
Yeah. It's such a heady experience to think, I didn't know that she bought this painting. I had no idea. And so then I get to ask, well, which one? What do you have? I mean, and it's just it triggers this whole thing. My most recent post on Instagram is that I just found out that somebody purchased one of my paintings for their wife or girlfriend for Christmas. She'd fallen in love with it, saw it at the Foundry. Right. And that was her Christmas gift. And that was so cool for me. Yeah. To think that somebody loved it that much, that was their big gift. Yeah, that's awesome. See, and I think what's neat is your work is obviously very beautiful, but I love the stories behind the work. I mean, I think it's always interesting, not only the story that created the work, but then like what you're saying are the stories after the work is created and where the painting goes in the universe from there. Yeah, right? For sure. I have one painting. It's called Connecting the Dots, and I had created this thing, and it was so atypical to what I normally do. Right. But I just had this colorful burst, I guess, in my head that I had to get out. So I painted this thing, And I didn't even know what to do with it. I didn't feel like I could show it to any of my galleries because it was so different from my usual work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just took a photo of it and I put it up on Instagram. And I had actually kind of assumed that I was just going to paint over it. Next thing I know, I get an email. And in my Instagram post, I called it squirrel because to me it was just like all over the place, you know? And so I get an email and it's titled Squirrel. And a lady says to me, do you still have this painting? Because if you do, I have the most perfect place for it. And so I said, well, I do. So I ended up meeting her, showing her the painting. She loved it. And she took it with her. And then she sent me photos. And I have them on my Instagram story. It is like I painted that just for her.
Interesting.
But I don't even think if I had gone to visit her space, I would have come up with that.
Right.
It was just so organically perfect. And so I ended up changing the name of the painting from Squirrel to Connecting the Dots. Because for me, that was such a huge lesson to just paint what I feel.
Yeah.
And then put it out there.
Yep.
And the right person will find it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally true. I mean, we were talking about that earlier about, your space here and the things that just happen in the universe if you just put it out there and visualize it and let it manifest itself, right?
Yeah. Stop overthinking things and just
let it come from the heart.
Yeah. And I think when you're operating from the place of the greatest good, I think the universe opens up every door for you.
Totally.
Right? I mean,
Totally
when you are
believe
coming
that.
from an honest, genuine space and doing something with love and passion.
Yeah, not necessarily for you.
No.
You're just doing it because that's what you feel and that's the energy you want to put out there.
Yep.
And it's amazing what does come to you in a roundabout way that you never even imagined.
From directions you never considered that was a possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take a look at all of these paintings, every single one of them was painted from an emotion, from a feeling.
Yeah.
From very few of them, if any, are contrived or predetermined before I start.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, we've been talking about your life here, and I know everybody's life has the ups and has the downs, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So when you paint, do you capture all those different pendulum of emotions?
Oh, for sure. I mean, just looking
because you always seem like such an upbeat person, but I'm sure there's moments that are tough.
There are definitely moments that are tough, and it's you can tell by my color choices. I speak a lot through color because I don't do a lot of shapes, although with these story people, you're getting more shapes.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, that one with the heads right there.
Yeah.
That painting is called Return to Joy. But if you look, so her head is bent first and it's dark and she's super sad. But as she is letting go of the sadness, it turns into this beautiful rose gold.
Pretty.
So it's called Return to Joy. But I'll tell you, there were so many tears, when I painted that one.
Yeah.
Because that followed kind of a sad
moment
in my life.
Yeah.
And so that there was a lot of tears involved in that one. And, there are some of the other ones as well. And there's, that painting goes from sadness to complete and utter elation all within those. So, yeah, I mean, everything in here is pure emotion.
So how long do some of these pieces take you to put together?
There is no rhyme or reason to them. Sometimes I fight with them and we battle back and forth and it can take months. And then other ones come out in days. And there is no rhyme or reason to I wish I could come up with what the formula is, but there isn't. It just
just what it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool. See, that's what I love about painting and that's what I love about cooking. Compared to architecture, is they're a lot quicker.
Right.
I mean, you saw how long it took us to do your little shop, and that was your little studio.
Right. I can't even
imagine
some of these,
crazy.
Right.
I'm working on a house for 5, 6. I've worked on one house 12 years.
Wow.
So imagine doing a painting that took you 12 years.
Nope. That would make me crazy.
Go crazy, right?
I would go nuts.
Yeah.
I do have one that took a year.
Right.
But it didn't take a year to paint it. It took a year for it to dry. And that's actually the one that was chosen for the Herberger show.
Nice.
And now David Adler is actually turning it into a rug.
Oh, that's cool.
So we have the first strike of it being, well, actually, I think we might be on the third strike because they're having a hard time with the metallics and getting the metallics right. But David Adler's turning it into a rug.
That's what's neat about some of this stuff is the interaction that happens with the artists and the different people in this community.
Yeah, you know what? This community is phenomenal.
That's what we were just having a conversation about that with somebody. And I've been here since 79, 80. And the transformation that's happened really just in the last, I'd say 5 to 10 years
Mm-hmm.
has been monumental. And it's like now there's enough momentum that I really see this place taking off
I do too.
from an artistic community.
I do too. And I think, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Maybe if I had started the painting sooner, it wouldn't have been the right receptive,
Right.
situation.
Right, you're in the right place and time.
Right? Absolutely.
Totally.
And, I work with a lot of interior designers, and I love working with them.
Yeah.
For me, it's actually one of my favorite things to do, especially when it's a commission, because I get to see the space that it's going into. I get to meet the people.
Well, see,
who
that's
will
where I
have
think
it.
that's where I think you're very talented, and I think it's that marketing, advertising background that you have
Mhm.
that you get that as an artist.
Yes.
I know a lot of artists that are so shy
Mm-hmm.
and so into their own little world. They don't get out, they don't market.
Mm-hmm.
And like an architect, there's a lot of architects the same way. You've got to be able to market your stuff. I
Absolutely.
don't care how talented you are,
Mhm.
but if you can get out there and promote your work and toot your own horn a little bit in a
Yeah.
in a nice way.
In a nice way, absolutely.
I just think the benefits. Like here's the classic example. We're looking at what you just did with the kids at Gigi's Playhouse,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
And I think I got you involved
you
in
did,
that.
absolutely.
And what a great place, right?
I love that place, and I teach art there now every month, and I love those kids.
Yeah.
And but it's an amazing thing.
Right. But you're out there in the community,
Mhm.
getting your work, meeting interior designers, meeting
Mhm.
people,
Yep.
and I just find that it just perpetuates what you do.
Well, for sure. When I decided that I was going to be an artist, I decided right off the bat I was not going to be a starving artist.
Right. That's good. You
And
made a mental conscious
I did.
decision that that's
Yeah.
how you were going to be.
Absolutely. I think, happy is a choice,
Yep.
and it's also success is also a choice.
Yes.
And I think, one of the best things that I did when I decided to do it was I hired an artist consultant. And
Interesting.
and because, obviously I knew marketing. I'd done it
Yeah.
for 20 something, almost
Yeah.
30 years. But I was smart enough to know that marketing in the art world is different from marketing, a Ferrari,
right, a car,
I mean,
yeah.
it's totally different.
Totally different.
So I hired an artist consultant, and I had her look at my work, and I had her help me with all of the different elements. And she gave me incredible confidence, and said, you should be talking to these people, reach out to these people. Don't stop reaching
Right,
out to people.
right.
You don't have to be a starving artist.
Yeah.
And so she gave me the tools early on, and I was able to just take my previous experience, do the work.
Yep.
But the whole point is, just because you build it doesn't mean they will come. You have to show people what you do.
Right.
And that's just it. It's show people what you do, and then hope they connect with you.
Yeah,
and
engage
you're not
in them.
going to connect with everybody.
Right.
My style isn't everybody's
Right.
style, right?
Yep.
But it's kind of like that whole Apple campaign. Apple's philosophy was, we're not going to try to sell you. We're just going to show you what we do.
Right.
And if you connect with us, you'll come.
Right. And you create your own community.
You create your own community.
culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you're doing that. I mean, I think don't you as you go through this whole process, what I find is not only am I learning more about architecture, my technical skills, proportion, blah 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 blah, but you're also learning how to run the business and
Yes.
things to do to perpetuate your business further.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a dance, right?
Yeah, totally.
There's only so many hours in a day,
Yeah.
and you have to create some of those hours, and you have to be a parent some of those
Yep.
hours, and you have to, make sure your home is taken care of,
Yep.
and the people around you are taken care of, and you're taken
You got to wear a
care
lot
of.
of hats every
You
day.
do, so it's called getting up early. And
Are you an early riser?
Oh, I am.
Yep.
Yep, I am. I'm usually up by 5:30.
Yep.
5:30. Especially in the summer when it's lighter.
Right.
I've been a little lazy this Christmas
Yeah,
break, but it's been lovely.
I love the early summer hours.
I do too.
I mean, it's beautiful here in
Mhm.
Arizona. It's cool.
Yep.
It starts getting light at 4:30,
Yep.
whatever. And like from 4:30 to 9, I can get so much done.
Mm-hmm.
And then I still got the whole day, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So as
Yeah.
an artist, I just think, for me, it's just a really great time to be creative because there's no distractions.
There's none. You know what?
Yeah.
There's a quote from Brian Andreas, and I love it. And it said, "I love the early mornings because nobody's around to remind me who I'm supposed to be. So it's
Yes, I
easier to
love that.
remember who I am."
Yeah, just tap into who you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, those are my best hours.
Yeah.
I get up and I don't get up and paint that early anymore because my
Yep.
studio is no longer in my dining room.
Right.
But I get up and I exercise and I meditate and I do the things
So
to
see,
prepare
that's something probably
me
you
for
weren't
the
able
day.
to do when it was in your house. that you can do now because your stuff's here. So you have time to do that stuff for you.
Right.
To start your day.
Yeah, because it would be before I would get up, I would walk in and I would see a painting and I would go, oh, okay, now I know what I want to do. And then I would start right in. And then I would forget about, but hey, wait, hello, you need to recharge yourself.
Right. So
now it's this beautiful balance.
That's cool.
And so I hit the studio by like 9.
Yeah. Yeah, we just did Letitia Fry's whole podcast, and her whole message was balance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a Libra, so I'm always trying to find balance. And
I'm a Gemini.
You're a Gemini, okay.
There's like 87 voices going on at all times in my head.
That's so cool. But it's tough, isn't it? It's tough to find that area where you can just operate and be creative and focused.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of it, I'm empathic too. So I kind of take on everything. I need that space. And I need that time to just let whatever's not serving me go and embrace what is.
Right. That's awesome. So I know you talked about meditation and some of those things. What are some other ways that you kind of detach and balance yourself?
I love cooking.
Oh,
I love cooking. I know. I should have you over. I just made a duck dinner the other night. That was
sounds good.
Unbelievable.
You told me about your little Christmas episode. that sounded like a lot of fun. Where'd you end up? Tommaso's, you said?
We ended up at Tommaso's, yes.
That wasn't none of your fault.
No. I didn't burn the turkey.
No, that was plumbing issues.
It was plumbing issues.
That's funny.
When I called the plumber, I told him, I thought I was taking a calculated risk when I was bad 364 days of the year. I thought, how bad can one lump of coal be? Apparently, it was pretty bad.
That's funny. So do you like to cook?
I do.
What do you like to cook?
I love to try and cook last week alone, I made pan-seared duck over a roasted sweet potato and corn puree and
sounds fabulous.
Roasted Brussels sprouts. The night before that, I made scallops over polenta and a mushroom ragu.
You're talking my language.
The night before that, I made pan-seared lamb chops over a brie and mushroom risotto, and what else? And candied carrots.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So now, why do you like to cook?
It's a release for me.
Yeah, it's kind of for me too.
I don't like to clean. My daughter's awesome. I do the cooking. My daughter does the cleaning.
Yep.
And we just enjoy these lovely, lovely meals together.
So then you also, because the thing I find with cooking is, it's fun to do it. It's fun to escape, but you also want to please people. You want to nourish people.
Yeah, it's one of my love languages.
Right.
There was a time it took me a while to figure out what tile I wanted on my backsplash. And so I actually stood on top of my stove. We might explain some things that I stood on and I did a thought bubble over my stove and I wrote, I cook for you because I love you.
Right.
And my kids ended up loving that so much that I went without a tile backsplash for I think 3 years.
That's funny.
Because we just left that up.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So now do your kids, are they into art or are they into cooking?
My daughter is learning how to cook with me, and she's having a blast. She's actually a great little sous chef.
There you go.
We watch a lot of Gordon Ramsay,
yep.
A lot of it, and so, she's, yes, chef. Connor, believe it or not, is an incredible artist.
Cool.
But he doesn't want to do it, which is fine. I'm not going to push him.
Yeah,
maybe one day he'll pick it up.
Hey, maybe he's driving down the road and pulls into Michael's one day.
You never know, right? But yeah, he is so talented. If I were to show you some of the things he's done, if I was that talented.
That's how Bella is in my family.
Really?
Crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, she can draw and paint anything.
Really?
She doesn't do it.
Why? Well, hold on. She sent me some texts and said that she wants to come and spend some time with me in the studio.
There you go.
So I know that I will be encouraging that.
You should encourage that.
Oh, I'm going to send her a text and have her come and paint.
Her problem is she's got a lot of talents, but I think she lacks a little focus. But that goes with being 17, I think.
Absolutely. 100% it does.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
so that drive down to Michael's might come up with both of them someday.
Nice.
Right?
And you never know.
So what projects do you got cooking right now?
Well, I've got some really fun stuff coming up. On January 23rd, I'm actually going to be doing a live painting.
Oh, yeah, you were telling us about that a minute ago. That sounds really cool.
At the Azure, the new Azure residences that they're building. Yep. So it's going to be for Modern Luxury Magazine. They just called and asked if I would do that. So they're doing a big party. And
you had a nice feature in their magazine.
I did.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
It was really, really, I love that.
Yeah, that was very cool.
It was gorgeous. I'm the official artist for the Iconic House.
There you go.
Which I'm super excited about.
With Renee D.
Yes, with Renee D.
Yep, we got her in a podcast coming up in about 2 weeks.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we're going to do a I don't know what you call it, a pod swap, I think is what she calls it.
Oh, yeah?
She recorded my podcast, and I recorded her podcast, and we're going to release both on the same day.
Oh, that's so cool.
So,
I'm actually recording with her on Friday.
there you go.
There it is.
She's awesome.
She's
I can
great.
tell you, she is.
Yeah, she's
great. She's a dynamo.
She is fantastic, and she's just been so lovely to work with.
Good.
So lovely. So, and I'm excited. I mean, I get to work with C.P. Druitt.
There you go.
And you know, Rich Brock and all of the, Claire Ownby and all of the incredibly...
Isabella and her crew are doing a bathroom, I think.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Well, yeah, I mean, it's just... I'm so excited. So I'm going to be doing some really great pieces to go into the Iconic House for the different artists. Amy at AB Design Elements. Yep. There's just some really fun stuff we've got coming up.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And then we have our Gigi's Playhouse.
Yeah,
the
gala
is coming up
on the 11th, I think.
On the 11th, yep.
Yep, and you're auctioning off some pieces.
We are. So the piece that you're actually looking at, the kids created it. The only thing I did on that was painted the background.
Wow.
So, and then, I would select the colors in the order.
So how many kids did you have when you did that piece?
Well, we had them come one at a time.
Okay,
so that we could allow colors to dry and.
And you did that at the Playhouse?
No, we did this
did
here.
It right here.
Yeah,
very nice.
Yeah, we did it right here. So
you told me a great story that there was one little girl that was real.
Oh, she was super tentative. She was almost terrified of it. You could see the look on her face. And so we kind of guided her through her first throwing. What you can't see because you're listening is that we had the kids throw paint onto 2 different canvases.
Tiff's getting some pictures of this piece, so
awesome.
we'll post it.
So you'll get to see it. It's so cool. She was a little timid. But she threw her first one, and you could just see it register. Like her whole demeanor changed, and suddenly she got this big grin, ear to ear, and you couldn't stop her. She was just walking around the canvas and throwing the paint and having such a great time. And her mom was just, so excited to see her daughter light up like that. And it was actually pretty incredible. Every one of those kids lit up like that.
Yeah.
And it started me thinking of a couple things. I think that there are a lot of organizations in town that have kids or people that could really use some art therapy.
Yep.
So I'm thinking about, kind of figuring out, who I might want to talk to and open up my studio and maybe do something like this.
I think that's a great idea.
Once a month and just pick a different, organization once a month and let their kids come and do this.
Yeah. Well, I think talk about connecting dots.
Right.
You're going to connect so many dots doing that.
Well, I mean, just seeing the joy on those kids' faces, it lit me up.
Right.
Right.
So there's that energy coming from the universe that's going everywhere.
Yeah. And to me,
that's what we're talking about, guys.
Yeah.
Just figure that out. Figure out where your energy is like that, where you can just, basically I tell people, drop the one little stone in the water and the little ripple and just watch it go.
Yeah.
Right?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And then the other idea, well, I kind of had the idea before doing this, but I'm going to start a series of workshops where I'm going to invite people to come into the studio, and we're going to put up a piece of blank canvas on the wall, and we are going to let people throw paint.
That's cool.
And so, there's those painting parties where you can go and
we
paint
got to time lapse that.
Oh, for sure, right? How cool would that be?
That'd be really cool.
And we'll have wine, and we'll have appetizers, and there'll be great music playing. And then so so instead of going to like one of those painting parties where you do a sunset or a bowl of fruit or something like that, you're actually going to go home with this really cool, completely energetic painting that is done in colors that you want. And I just think it'll be this amazing experience for everybody.
Something like that, could you do like? How hard would it be to get like a canvas almost the length of that wall?
Well, funny that you should mention that. So see that wall right there?
Yeah.
That was one of my ideas, is that I want to get one big long canvas, and I want to get a bunch of people in, have
a community
wine,
painting.
like a community painting, and have wine and just let everybody in on it and see what we get out of it. I thought that would be so much fun.
I think that'd be really fun.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. I was looking at my Spain photos the other day, and it was looking at the picture of Guernica, I'm probably saying it right. And this little boy is standing in front of it, and it's this huge, long painting.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know, it's just so impactful.
Yeah, I know.
To see some, especially if it was community created.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that'd be really fun.
Well, one of the other things I want to do with that space is put up a canvas, but it's my canvas, and every time I have paint left on a brush
Oh,
or
it just
paint
goes.
left in a container.
Yeah.
It just goes on there. And then at
See
the
how it
end,
evolves.
and then at the end of the time when I feel like it's ready,
Yeah.
then there it is.
There it
There's
is.
just
Done.
this big, and so it could either be, go into a home or a business as one big space, or we
Right.
can cut it and turn it into multiple paintings. But
That's
how
so
fun would
cool.
that be?
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So how many paintings do you have going on right now? How many projects?
How many? Well, there's that one. I know where that's going, so it's got to get started. There's that one going. Oh gosh, there's just a lot. There's the and I'm about to start a whole bunch more. So I just delivered a lot of art. So I took a whole bunch to Aspen. I took some to Telluride.
So I love following your trips, by the way. You need to post more of that journey.
I know.
Because it's fun to watch you travel there and see the art happen. And I don't know, it sucks me in.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? When my daughter travels with me,
Yeah.
it's easier because I have,
Some
somebody
help.
to take the photographs. But as I'm traveling down the road doing 95, it's kind of hard to.
Yes, I'm probably not real safe.
I mean, I've done it. I've taken some great shots from the road.
Yeah.
Or it's hard, when she's not there with me to even just document as I'm like transferring art from the suburban into the gallery, right? Like, it's almost.
That's what I was saying earlier. I want to film like when you're at Gigi's with the kids, or the kids are here. Just film some of that stuff. I think it's really intriguing for people, and especially non-artists. I'm an artist, I get it, but I think for people that aren't artists to watch that process and watch the ripples come out of the stone that's dropped in the water.
No, for sure. I wish we had gotten video of those kids. We have some great photographs.
Yeah.
But I wish
the videos are cool.
The videos would have been amazing just to show their faces. I mean, that will stick with me forever. That's indelible. It really is.
Are you a podcast listener, reader, book reader?
I'm a book reader when I have time, but for the most part, my brain is on, fry most of the time. And when I'm painting, I need music. Yeah, so or music sometimes silence. Yeah. Sometimes silence is exactly what I need.
What kind of music do you like to listen to?
You know what? It depends on the energy of how I'm feeling that day. It depends on what I'm trying to create.
Yeah.
If I'm doing bright, colorful, then I'll put on happy, kind of fun music. If I'm in a bad space, I put on love songs and just cry or, whatever it is. But it flows just like the art does. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
Even when I draw for houses, I notice I don't do it consciously. Sometimes I do it subconsciously. I'll be drawing and all of a sudden I'll realize, I'm listening to jazz. That's fine. I usually don't listen to jazz. Or I'll all of a sudden have classical, which is my go-to. But then sometimes I'll have some real techno chill music.
I do a lot of techno chill.
So it's kind of fun to watch where all that goes and how that energy gets absorbed.
Yeah, no, for sure. I find that when I need to really concentrate, then I choose music that I know really well.
Right.
Because
it's familiar.
It's familiar and I can sing along with it.
Right.
Because when it's music that I don't know, my brain taps into the vocals and I want to know what they're singing and understand what the message of the music is, and then I'm gone. Yeah. Right, from what I'm focusing on.
Yep. So what are you looking forward to in the year ahead?
Oh, gosh, everything.
New decade. I mean,
I know. I was just thinking about that. Think about that. 10 years.
10 years.
10 years when I've spent the last few days becoming, really happily acquainted with my couch, just allowing myself downtime and just breathing and being and
taking care of yourself.
Yeah, and reflecting on the last 10 years, and when I think about everything that's happened in those 10 years, it's almost mind-boggling.
Well, a lot of it's happened in the last 7 from what you just said.
I know, it really has. I mean, it's this whole new life.
Yeah.
But it's a life, honestly, one day one of the kids, remember when the lottery was up to like $650 million or some crazy number? I don't ever play the lottery. Yeah. I just think it's silly. But, one of my kids called and said, Mom, stop and get lottery tickets on the way. It's $650 million. I was like, okay, why not? So I stopped. I paid my $10. I got in my truck. I'm driving home, and I did what everybody does, right? Your mind starts to wander and think, gosh, what if I won? Right? And I can remember playing that game in my head before, back when I was doing marketing, and I'd be like, oh, I'm out of here. I'm going to move to here, and I'm going to do this. But I would have nothing to do with marketing. Like, I would have shut it all down and been done.
Yep.
And in my brain, when I started playing with what I would do with that $650 million, I was thought to myself, oh my God, I'm going to get this studio in London, and I want one here, and I want one in New York, and I want a studio here, and oh my God, I want to get that thing that rigs up from the ceiling so I can fly over my paintings, and look, I can go buy all the materials, and then my brain just started flying around these amazing studios, and then it dawned on me, wait a minute, I must be doing exactly what I want to do because I don't want to stop it. I just want to do it bigger and better.
Yeah.
And for me, that was the gift in that whole experience.
That's cool.
I didn't win the lottery, but I did.
Yeah. Well,
right?
Based on everything you've said today and just our talk before we started recording, I think you've tapped into that manifestation power. So even though you had that little lottery thought, I think some of that is soaked into your subconscious now, and it'll become a reality. Not exactly how you thought, but you know how that shit works.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, you put it out there, and then you take baby steps every single day.
Yeah.
You just do something that moves you in the direction of that dream.
Where you're going. And keep believing. Have the faith.
Yeah, you have to have faith.
You have to have faith.
And there's what, I would be lying if I told you there weren't days where I go, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? And you just have to get through that day. Yeah. Just keep breathing. Just keep going. And I promise the next day you'll be like, oh, that's why I'm doing this.
Yep. No, I think, as someone that's creative, when you put it out there, you always have that voice, that little doubt voice. It's like,
am I good enough?
Are they going to like this? Are they going to like this roof that I did or this window? I mean, you just don't know.
You don't know.
But you do it, and you do it what feels right. And luckily for both of us, I guess 90% of the time it seems to all work out.
It works out, but here's the great part about what we do. If we mess up, we're not doctors. Nobody dies.
Yeah,
we can get an eraser. We can get more paint.
No one's going to die. So
nobody's
going to
die. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what? And I actually just had that experience. I was working on a commission piece, and I didn't listen to myself doing that piece. I took in too much more information, and what I created, I would tell you it wasn't a Niki piece. And the client didn't really love it, but I knew that was coming. I had already bought canvases in the exact same size, waiting to hear that they didn't really love it. And they said, just be you.
Yeah, interesting.
And I was, and I did another painting, and they love it, and I loved it.
Interesting.
And so, but that's an amazing lesson, right?
Yeah.
Don't just be you.
Yeah, just be you.
Just be you.
I know everyone's always
your
trying.
gut.
Your voice is always trying to be shaped by what other people tell you should be.
Right.
And what I learned in going through life, and I'm obviously always learning, is just let it come from here. Let it come from your heart.
Yeah.
Be you.
Be you.
Your soul.
Yeah. Listen, that's why people choose you to be their architect, because they love what you do.
Right.
They want you. They don't want anybody else.
Right.
Right? And so when somebody chooses my art, I have to remember that, they've looked at what I do. They've looked at what other artists do. They're buying what I do.
Yeah.
That's what they want, because it makes them feel something. It does something for them intrinsically.
Right.
And so to be anybody but me, well, I'm just shooting myself in the foot at that point.
Right. No, I've analyzed that with our work too, because we do contemporary, we do traditional, we do all these different styles, like different types of paintings. But the soul of us, the soul of my company, the soul of me, is in all those different styles.
Right.
And that's what makes them different from other people. So everything you say totally applies to what we do.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just a different medium.
Absolutely. You know what? Absolutely.
Cooking is the same thing.
It's the same thing. Do you know, I can drive down the street and I can say, that's a Candelaria house.
Yeah. People tell me that.
I always
know them because I know what they look like.
Yeah, but I watched you for a long time before I knew you. And I love your work. And so I can spot a Candelaria. That I do that run up 56th Street.
Yep.
In the mornings.
You see our crazy house up on the mountain.
That's the one I was talking about. But even like the first time I noticed it, I hadn't gotten to the space where I could see that I was Candelaria. You had your sign up yet. But as I was running, I was like, oh, that's a Candelaria house, 100%.
That's so funny.
And then I got close enough to see it, and I was like, sure enough, it is. Absolutely.
That's wild.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate that a great deal.
No, you're incredibly talented.
So what we got to do is we got to get some of your art into some of my houses.
All
which
right.
I know is going to happen.
Oh, I have no doubt. So, everything in its time.
Yep.
Right?
I mean, that would be quite an evening, wouldn't it?
It would be awesome. It would be amazing.
That's going to happen. Then we'll both cook.
Oh, how fun would that be?
How fun would that be?
That would be a
so
blast.
we're putting it in the universe. See
okay, we're putting it out there.
Manifesting
I love it.
this. Okay.
I love it.
So how do we get a hold of you? How do we find you?
Well, you can go to my website, which is nikiwoehler.com. I'm on Instagram, Niki Woehler Artist.
Okay.
And then, I guess that's the easiest way to get me.
And we'll put
all of my contact information is also on both places.
Perfect. And we'll put all that in the story notes so you can tap right in.
Yeah, thank you.
And this is so much fun.
This was great.
So I think what we got to do is what I'd like to do is I would love to do a podcast where we either do the community thing and we have everybody here and we're talking to everybody, or we do something with Gigi's with the kids and we talk to them and I think there's some opportunities to do some fun stuff.
No, for sure. I think we should too. For sure. 100%.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
It's going to be a great decade coming up for both of us.
For both of us. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Niki Woehler, and great job. Also want to thank her for her fantastic donation of her incredible artwork at the Gigi's Gala auction earlier this month. I mean, first of all, that auction was great. Letitia Fry, who was on one of our earlier podcasts, did a spectacular job. Carrie Pena hosted and knocked it out of the park. And then, Niki donated her beautiful artwork, and I know it did quite well. So special kudos there to you, my friend. And another thank you again to Taliesin West and our dinner there on the 16th, which was a big success. It was a little chilly out, but we had the cocktails there on the terrace and then dinner in the cabaret room, and it was fantastic. What a memorable, magical evening. And I can't believe January is almost over. I mean, it's Phoenix Open Week this week and the Super Bowl next Sunday. Not to mention it's my dad's 85th birthday on January 31st. So send him some shout-outs, some happy birthdays on Instagram and Facebook. Yes, my dad is on there. I got him on there. He's got his new iPhone. My dad is tricked out for the 21st century now. So he'll dig it. So just send him a few little happy birthdays, and we're looking forward to spending next Sunday. I know it's not his birthday. His birthday's on the 31st, but next Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. So I'm having Pops over here. We're going to go to the Joya Spa, get massages, then grab a martini, watch the final round of the Phoenix Open there at the hotel. And then we're going to come back here and fire up some pizza pies and relax and watch the Super Bowl. Not sure who's going to win. I'm kind of pulling for Kansas City, but I'm just hoping, like we always say, for a good game. So, okay, so have a great week, everyone, and remember to always make your day full of inspiring living. I want to say a big thank you to my good friends at Stockett Tile and Granite Company, where your project is our priority. The Stockett team, along with so many others, are coming really close to the finish line on our demonstration kitchen and our new expansion of our Candelaria design offices. I've had the pleasure of working with the Stockett team for nearly 40 years on some amazing projects, and trust me, they are the epitome of excellence when it comes to tile, marble, and granite work, bar none. Their skill and customer service is impeccable, and the bottom line is they are just good people. I have traveled with, dined with, and just had good times both personally and professionally with Dave Stockett and his lovely wife Becky, and they are the best. When it comes to your next kitchen, make sure Stockett Tile and Granite is part of your team. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed our podcast. We encourage you to write a review, screenshot it, and share it with your friends. Please instant message it to me and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We thank you for listening, and we look forward to sharing more insights to inspiring living next week.